Hey, how's it going today, everyone? Welcome to another BioDevils podcast. Today we're going to talk about some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Reunion, and all sorts of other Final Fantasy VII related stuff. With that being said, I'm your host, BioDevil Dom, and I am joined by a number of different guests, so why don't they go ahead and introduce themselves? First up, we have Mr. Anonymous over here.
Actually, since we're not talking about Capcom, I can actually go by my full name and my social insurance number. Hello, I am Dark Angel, and that's all you need to know.
Alrighty, cool. After that, we got Mr. DevilHunterJames as always.
Me? Gone Gaga.
Nice. After that, we're followed up by Divic.
Hey, how's it going?
Next up, we got Mr. GammaEli.
I am going to Tifa in the Italian Senate.
Okay. Okay.
I start recording all over again. It's not age appropriate.
Look,
Christian.
my
Final
content
Fantasy.
has never been age appropriate, okay? So. Alrighty. Well, anyway, next up, we got Mr. KaptainKaos.
What's going on, guys?
Alrighty, and last but not least, as always with me, Mr. Brandel, Sir Brandel, ImmortalBrandel.
Hi, I'm here again. Fortunately, this man got no shackles. Send help, please.
Yeah, so anyway, why don't we get right into this podcast by going off of number one. With all the announcements for Final Fantasy VII being announced recently, what are you most looking forward to? Personally, I think while I'm very much interested in playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I still haven't finished the remake, admittedly. I am also very interested to try out the Crisis Core remake, the Crisis Core Reunion, as it's being called now, just because I've never played that game, so I want to be able to get into all sorts of different Final Fantasy stuff. So Final Fantasy Crisis Core, as far as I've been told, is actually a really great PSP game, so it's going to be interesting to see how this remake or remaster turns out.
Yeah, my answer to that's pretty much the same. I mean, I'm looking forward to Rebirth, and I also have not played the original Crisis Core, so I'm interested to check out the remake. I know this is a question where we were going to ask later, but I would also be interested in the potential Dirge of Cerberus remake because I actually did play that when I was younger, the original game, and I really enjoyed it for what it was. So I'm kind of hoping they eventually go, maybe do that.
It might happen because there's a certain character at the end of that game that is relevant to Crisis Core as well.
Yeah, I was thinking we might get that down the line as well. Like, I mean, if we got Crisis Core coming back, might as well get Dirge of Cerberus.
For sure,
I
yeah.
hope so. What I hope if it does come back to that one thing they do is hopefully improve the shooting mechanics because that was one of the parts about that game that was I remember not being so great.
It's a third-person shooter, so by now it should be easy to fix that.
Yeah, I think they, hopefully they improve that, but yeah.
For me, I think I'm really excited for Crisis Core remake the most because I for one, have never played Crisis Core before. The only thing I know about Zack was that he was in Birth by Sleep in Kingdom Hearts.
Same.
That probably threw people for a loop that don't know who he is.
Yeah, I literally had to Google who the fuck Zack was.
Oh, for me, I screamed like a woman. It's already know.
What's that?
It's Zach, bro. I have no shame.
Oh, don't worry. Zack has a ton of fangirls, and I'm sure that they're very happy for the remake.
And I'm one of them, anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking forward to Rebirth simply because I'm sure we'll kind of get into it a little bit, but the divergence from the old is so nutty with some of the stuff they're doing right now. I kind of want to see how crazy it gets. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Is like I just want to ride this incredibly weird roller coaster to the end.
Yeah, the 7 remake got really meta.
It's interesting. It's super interesting, and like I want crazy off the rails. Like I want to be flying in a minecart into the abyss by the time we get the third game. And having
Yoko Taro levels of crazy, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm sure by the time we get to the third game, someone will be thrown into the abyss. But
The final boss will be a rhythm game.
It's going to be a gacha card battler. You pay $1,000, you can beat the final boss. But
No, you need to pay $25,000 just to get the 5-star tier.
and then seeing Crisis Core come back is great because Crisis Core is trapped on the PSP right now, right? If I'm
Yeah, it's only been on the
it's only
PSP.
on the PSP, so that's good. Making it more available for people, awesome. I always support that.
Does make me wonder though, real quick,
Good.
if they plan on, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we talk about that, but like, it makes me wonder if they'll do like a similar deal with what they did with the original Final Fantasy VII, where they ported over to other the original Crisis Core to other platforms, so that they could play that before that remake comes out or remaster.
I think that'd be pointless considering it's literally the same game, so I doubt that.
Yeah, I think Square is only focusing on just the remake for now.
But
Yep.
I don't think it's actually a remake. It's actually just a remaster. Let's
Well, yeah.
say base switching us again, which I would be surprised.
Well, Reunion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just focusing on Reunion.
I guess we can move on then, right? If we're done with this.
I didn't say nothing.
Oh, get the fuck out of here then. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm all about gameplay, so what I'm looking for mostly is to see how they improved on the gameplay aspect of the franchise. Because with just one DLC, there was like a world of difference between the base game and that DLC. So, with the limitation they already had on PS4 being removed because it's exclusive on PS5 and most likely PC, maybe 4 years from now, I'm really interested to see what they're gonna do with it.
All right, yeah. So I think we're good on this question. So why don't we have Arian read off number 2?
So, do you guys have any expectation for Final Fantasy Rebirth?
Yeah, I hope it's good. No, give birth to us. It's the game.
Since everything now is original, it has nothing to do with it's off the game's original script now. They kind of keep teasing me about Sephiroth. I really want to know what the fuck's going on with that man.
Yeah,
What
for
do I
real.
expect? What do I expect? To be mind broken, just like the first game.
I better see him suppress a snake like an original, bro. That's all.
Oh, where he kills the slalom serpent, whatever it's called. I had a name.
Yeah,
look
like
up later.
that imagery alone was just freaking insane. Like he was barely in the game, but he was around. His presence was
Yeah, he's
there.
like, damn, we struggle on that thing. Meanwhile, Sephiroth, I left the snake on a pike. It's also the size of a skyscraper, but yeah, just keep that in mind.
Imagine
And,
if the
like-
game opened with that.
Oh shit.
Yeah, for me, it would just be like the radically different direction it seems the story is going, and also maybe it potentially being open world because at this point in the story, like the game, I think is in the original opens up until like the overworld, so I'm kind of wondering how they're going to handle that.
Yeah, as soon as you leave Midgar.
Yeah, and of course, it's maybe just like further improving some of the gameplay elements of the first game or the first remake, I should say. But yeah, and I'm just just what they would do with certain characters and what they're doing with the story, and it's pretty much what I'm looking forward to. In terms of expectations, I guess I'm really concerned just because they're going in such a weird direction with it that it could go one of two ways. Either it will be really good and interesting, or just it will drop the ball, like, which is of course a question that we're going to talk about later, but that's kind of what I'm like. I guess I'm kind of afraid it might go the other way because Final Fantasy does kind of have a history of whenever it goes in some kind of crazy direction when it comes to, like, I think somebody pointed out, compared like what they're doing with 7 Remake to what they did with like Final Fantasy 13 with like the time travel
I
stuff.
was just gonna
And-
say, you remember Lightning?
Yeah.
I'd rather not.
How they kind of went
For a female
really crazy
Cloud?
with that. Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping they don't go too crazy with it, or because it could very easily be be not so good. So I'm kind of hoping that doesn't happen.
Hopefully they learn their lesson from Dirge. As much as I want to play that game, the story is quite a fucking mess post FF7.
Yeah, I don't remember the story being all that great. People like that was one of the complaints people had about that game.
Which is a shame because I love Vincent. Just the plot wasn't that good.
I tend to sit in the camp of not having expectations. I was talking about this off the call, but I feel like if I don't have expectations, I could probably enjoy it way more. That being said, I played FF7 I think like 2 or 3 times when I was a kid, and so with the divergence going on right now, like I said earlier, I'm just
I
kind of waiting for
apologize if
everything
you
to go
did that, by
crazy.
the way.
No, you're good. Yeah, I'm kind of also looking forward to everything going off the rails because I feel like either they craft a magnificent story or it becomes an absolute train wreck, and either one is going to be really entertaining to watch regardless.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why I said it could go either one of two ways.
Yeah, really good, really bad.
Mhm.
I at least respect the risk being taken.
I love
Yeah,
my train
yeah,
wrecks too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, this is colossal. Like task to
I'll
even
be
try
honest,
to pull off.
I kind of like that it's more like a reimagining than like a straight up like remake, like 100% faithful remake of the original story.
It's more like a sequel.
No,
in a
yeah, at
way.
this point they said that they are completely
Oh, well.
diverging away from what 7 originally was. This is like
Yeah.
brand new story at this point.
Well, so why do you say it's a sequel? Is it because I remember like there was that line Red 13 said at the end, or near the end of the remake where he was talking about like I think he was referencing the ending of the original game or
Yeah,
something.
Yeah,
the
he
characters
sees a vision of having children.
Yeah.
But all the characters are aware of the events of the original timeline. So does so
Mhm.
whatever happened that led up to remakes timeline or continuity though. We don't know yet though, but the characters are fully aware when they were fighting that thing. I forgot what it's called. And then when you watch the trailer for Give Birth, it's literally they literally go over like Aaron's death and other events. At least Cloud everywhere. So clearly they're aware of this events though, but how they gonna play out though? Obviously we don't know until the game.
Like I said, the thing that's throwing me for a loop is fucking Sephiroth because he's not actively trying to kill Cloud anymore. Like he's not. I wouldn't say he's changed, but his motive is
He's
completely
passive.
different.
He's more passive. What?
He's
Passive
more. It feels
against
like more
Cloud
like
now.
he's trying to get on his team, which is fucking weird. But they did say in the trailer what's his motivation, so I guess we'll have to find out.
Yeah, because theories for Sephiroth was like this is that might be avid children Sephiroth, which
He was
more I think about
stronger
it,
than that though in the game. Like he was doing
Well,
way worse shit.
yeah, that's the thing though. Like it would actually make sense considering the feats he was pulling off in contrast to the original Sephiroth, and whatnot, right? So it's plausible that this Sephiroth was somehow placed into this timeline, and maybe he see things that could fuck over the whole time stream, and he try to get Cloud on his side. But
Yeah,
again, like there's so many
he has seen
possible
something.
possibilities. Yeah, there's a reason why he won Cloud inside though, as opposed to trying to kill him like in the original stuff. Like he's up to something though, but obviously we don't know yet.
So what I'm personally expecting is nothing really specific from the story side of things, but I am expecting like some improvements on the actual like gameplay itself. Just some overall refinement because I didn't think that the remake played bad at all. They played fine. I just think that they are gonna refine it some more and maybe throw in some additional mechanics here and there that'll improve upon remake's gameplay.
I can see that.
Is that everybody so far?
Yeah, I think so. Unless...
Patience. With story, I don't know what to expect, and that's the great thing about it. So I'm just gonna leave that to the writers and the directors to deal with.
He's keeping us guessing, and that's probably the best part about it.
Yeah, because like the story is kind of set in motion, and it's already there. I can't really whatever I expect from it is probably not gonna happen unless I guess right. And screw that. What I really expect is I want to play as Sephiroth. I know at the beginning of the game you're controlling him in the trailer, because the way he's moving around is completely different from what Cloud's doing. Cloud is mounting over stuff and all that. And if I can freely play as Sephiroth, and that 25-year-old dream of people wanting to play as him ever since the original becomes true, that will be great. Especially if I can play as him later down the line with the actual party. If he's gonna appear to do some fuckery with Cloud again, but he has to team up with him, and you actually get to play and control him.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that too as well. This also brings in Zack, what's his role going to be? Because he's actually alive this time around. So what's that going to be about? Like, is he going to be plucked out from the events of Crisis Core or whatever, or is that just going to be Remus continuity where he actually survives and then he fucks up somewhere?
Well, I feel like either the end of Integrate. I don't. Before we don't care about spoilers, but at the end of Integrate, that cutscene kind of implied to the fact that the timelines are linked up. So like Zack has a very high possibility of just meeting up with Cloud in the current events of 7. So that also might be another character that might just team up with you, like at some point in the game. Whatever the plot is gonna demand, it's gonna set up with some really interesting interaction with some of the characters.
Can you imagine a 3-man team with Cloud, Zack, and Sephiroth?
That's why I brought it up.
The Nibelheim squad.
Yeah, I just like who knows? Maybe even like you can have like 4 people. I'm pretty sure you probably couldn't, but
You know what? Maybe that's how the game starts.
I think the original 7 was only up to 3 people at a time.
yeah. But at the end
Yeah.
of 7, you had Red with you in the party. You just couldn't do anything with him.
No, yeah. And then I assume we're going to get Vincent this part. You don't get him in part 2, not part 3 in the original. So we'll see what they do with that.
DLC him though. He should be, a quest line or whatever storyline.
Oh,
Should get him.
I will hate them for 2 reasons. 1, I will probably buy it. 2, I'll still hate them because he's not in the game.
I would. Oh, go on.
I'm sure Vincent will be in the game.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think in regards to like the characters, because with the original at least, when you get outside of Midgar and go explore the world, you start running into like the other characters like Yuffie and Vincent, for example, right? And they get added into your party, and then you could make adjustments to your party so you're not constantly running around with just Barrett and Tifa, or Barrett and Aerith, or Aerith, depending on what you're familiar with, right? So
I said Barrett and Aerith, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Barrett and Aerith. Yeah, no, Barrett and Aerith, right?
Yep.
Or Tifa and Aerith, right? Like it. So when you're out in the expansive world, right, there's like characters that you can swap out and really formulate a team based off of what you're going to go up against, whether it be in like a side quest or just in one of the main quests, right? So I don't necessarily think that they would cut those areas out. I could definitely see them maybe creating like new and original content that specifically focuses on those characters, maybe similar to like the Yuffie DLC for Intergrade, or maybe just a thing where you go through like original content that's there and gives you access to like maybe like new weapons and materia that wasn't in the original, but nothing like, hey, this character is now DLC, even though they were originally an unlockable character.
Vincent is DLC.
To comment on that very briefly, I don't think Vincent is going to be DLC. I think both optional. I know Yuffie was optional, and so was Vincent in the original game. But considering how Yuffie got a whole DLC for her, I think they're planning to make the whole party as a core mission. Like, there's not going to be a side quest where you can recruit any of the main cast.
As they should, considering.
I think they did.
stuff.
I think they did actually say that they didn't consider Yuffie and Vincent to be side characters at this point.
Also, to be fair, I was just memeing.
I mean, honestly, it's
You are,
since Avid Children, though, they've never been side characters, though. They're part of the main squad, especially Vincent.
They were way too liked to be side characters. The only character they could fuck off with is Kate Sith.
Honestly, I barely remember Kate Sith from my playthrough.
I agree, though, but he's also an important character, so they had to keep him.
I think they're gonna work their magic, and just like how they worked their magic with Yuffie, I think they're gonna fix up Kate 60. So
yeah, Yuffie was a sweetheart in the grade, and I will stand by that. She was the best thing about it, bar none.
People didn't like her as much in the original because of the writing, but she's better than she used to be.
I can't wait till I get to Yuffie, and it's great. I still need to get to my FF7 playthrough.
Alright, but I think we should actually move on down to Jupiter, because
Yeah. Real quick too, I'm wondering how they're gonna buff up Sid for the Rebirth, because that's
They're
gonna
gonna
be
make
great.
him a piece of shit, and everyone will love it.
He's gonna
Yeah,
drink his tea
Sid?
and get a buff.
Yo, Sid's going to be a very interesting character because he's both obviously named Sid, right? But he's also a dragoon character. So like, how they going to integrate the dragoon and engineer into his playstyle?
Yeah.
Like, he's a character that's definitely going to be very very interesting to see.
For sure, yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up before we moved on to the next question. Why don't I have James read off number 3?
Thoughts on Crisis Core Remake and what changes you expect to be made? All right, well, number 6 is kind of conflicting with that a little bit. Whoops. But, I guess I'll just answer it now. You could say fuck 6. If we are or not. Because if you read what 6 is, it's like, oops.
Same thing. Yeah, he's right.
Oh, that's fine. I can just do this.
I mean, just answer 3, and then we can just tackle like the last sentence of 6.
Edit this out.
Edit it out.
We're organized.
Intermission.
So we're just doing 4?
You have to scream in the mic so that there's like a pop, so that you... No.
Okay, bro.
So as I mentioned before with Crisis Core, I have not played the original. I've only been told that it's very good. So I have no real expectations per se for this game.
I think the universal thing that people seem to agree on that the writing is not that great for the most part. It's just
some characters. Genesis, motherfucker.
Yeah, I would argue even NGO, he's just there for the sake of being there. He reminds me of Prince Charming from Shrek, but not as charming.
My mom thought he was hot.
Oh god.
Angie.
Yeah, I'll tell you that story later.
I don't know, the thing with the plot, I think with Rebirth, what they're going to try to do, and I hate to make this comparison because I'm sure people are tired of me talking about The Last of Us over the last day or so. They're probably going to try to tie stuff in a little better. That's really the only thing I expect. Because otherwise, why would they be doing this with Crisis Core right now?
Why does it have a new subtitle?
Yeah, why does it have a new subtitle? Why are they doing Crisis Core? We've had Crisis Core all these years, but now they're doing it with Rebirth. Probably going to just tie some stuff in a little bit just to make more like universe continuity or something like that. And then it's probably going to be like the most inoffensive thing. It'll be like 2 lines or like 2 minutes of cinematics, and that's it.
Yeah, it even changed the interface. It changed the interface to what Remake is. Granted, that's kind of like also what happened in Stranger
Well, I think they said they updated the battle system, which good. Crisis Core was alright to play, but it's not as fun as 7 Remake.
Yeah.
There's 2 major things why I think the subtitle thing is happening. A, it's probably going to link up to, like, I swear the end of that game is going to pull a twist, like a FF7 Remake style, and connect to that, just based on what we've seen from that game. And fucking Genesis. I don't know what they're doing with him. The fact that he's back means Gact is on board, which means they got the rights again. Which is why I also think Dirge of Cerberus might happen as a side note, because he's in there somewhere. I won't say where. I think it's, him and Genesis. That's like, I don't know. That shit's throwing me for a loop, because they could do anything with that character.
I just hope that the gameplay is solid. Like, I know that Crisis Core has like a slot system.
That doesn't impact the gameplay.
Oh, it doesn't?
To the degree of doing combos. The only thing it does is give you a special move sometimes out of nowhere, or it gives him a buff.
Okay. Yeah, I literally know nothing about Crisis Core, so I just hope that the gameplay is good. That's all I care about. Just make it on par with 7 Remake and it'll be good.
For sure, yeah.
Like, the way Zach is doing combos in that game is new, because he didn't really do combos unless it's a special attack, so that's already different.
Well, mind if I go first, Brandon?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So, I also haven't played Crisis Core, but the one thing I'm willing to bet my life on as a gamer is that I'm sure at the end of that, and maybe even at the beginning, they're going to show cutscenes. If not playable areas, they're going to add cutscenes that is going to directly reference Remake, and maybe even Rebirth at the end of it. So,
yeah, I'm thinking the same.
Expectation-wise, there is definitely something set up there. and that's probably why they changed the interface and the logo and everything for it.
Part 3 will be Revengeance. I'm calling it.
I will have my revengeance.
Yes. I guess we say everything we need to say here, right? Should we move on, Doom?
Yeah, we can move on. Why don't we have Divic read off number 4 here?
Radio voice. Let's go.
Oh, well, it'll be my pleasure. Considering Final Fantasy Remake went in a different direction plot-wise towards the end, what do you think we can expect Rebirth to change? Even more significant details and events of Final Fantasy VII's plot. I screwed that up, sorry.
I mean, they've already thrown out the original plot, so...
I don't think they're actually throwing it out there. They're more like they're using it as a backdrop. Because, again, going by the trailer, though, those events still exist. They know about it, right? Just the context may be different to lead up to those events. Like, for example, remember Aerith died, and it has Sephiroth? Maybe the context behind that will be different, like, where she sacrificed herself, rather than just her being assassinated, sniped out by Sephiroth, It still could be there, just handled differently.
Yeah, if he's different now, that probably won't happen, I want to say. If his motivation is different, because, in the original game, he's just a big antagonist.
Well, his thing, though, given that, remember those ghost things? Those guys keep the, I guess you could say, the balance or the time stream the same, right?
I thought they were gone, though, after, by the end of that game. Didn't they confirm that they got rid of them?
No, not to my recollection. Well, we won't know to find out, though. But let's say if that's the case, I'm pretty sure those events will still need to happen to make sure things don't go too fucked up.
So I feel like what they're gonna change, like indefinitely, like plot wise, is like certain backstories for like the characters. I could definitely see them like maybe changing up like the flashback sequence for what had occurred at Nibelheim. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm terrible.
Nibelheim.
Yeah. And Nibelheim.
Hey.
Yeah, Nibelheim. Yes, so like, yeah, and I apologize. I have very rude neighbors outside, so I do apologize if you heard that. But anyway, yeah, so I could definitely see them like changing up the backstory in regards to like how those events take place. Maybe adding in like a few details that weren't in the original. I could also see them maybe changing up like, why Vincent was in his coffin sleeping before Cloud and the rest of the party find him.
Yeah, Dirge does go over that actually.
Well, no, I'm saying like I could see them changing that, right? Especially
if they're alternate, possibly. Yeah,
like that's what I'm saying is like I could see them changing up the reasons as to why, especially if they lead into like a Dirge of Cerberus remake per se. I could also see them maybe like expanding on like some of the other characters too that didn't really get that much important story plots in the original, just to really drive home the point that these characters are important to this new plot.
Are we on?
We're on number 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and say, yeah, I think for sure they're going to. It's pretty much a reimagining at this point, so I think they're going to be going in a really different direction from the first game. And I'm kind of interested to see where it goes. I think one of the major things I would say is definitely going to change is the Aerith's death. I'm pretty sure they're gonna may or may not happen again. I don't know if they're going to substitute another character for Aerith, or if it's just not going to happen in general.
Actually, I had a theory on that.
Yeah.
What if you save Aerith, but Tifa dies in the place?
I think the fan base will kill them.
That's the popular theory, I think, going around.
That's the theory is going around, though, but I don't think that will happen. Only because one, I don't think Square Enix have the guts to do it, and two, they know exactly what would happen.
Wait, hold the phone. Hold the phone. Aerith dies in the original Final Fantasy.
Okay.
Okay.
Spoilers.
Sorry for that 25-year-old spoiler.
Yeah, I'm
So
sorry for that.
I could.
Honestly, even if you don't play it though, I can almost guarantee you know
Everybody
that she
knows.
dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The safe bet would be make it a choice between Aerith or Tifa.
Aerith,
Oh,
get up. I was kidding.
That's
Eric,
crazy.
Eric,
I'm putting the fucking controller down. There is no
See-
choice.
There is
See,
no choice.
I could see them maybe changing it to where you see both Zack and Aerith die at the same time. You know,
Damn.
like as
Jesus.
No, like don't get me
Probably
wrong,
Zack
I would.
probably isn't dead in this new time.
Are you
Right,
disturbed in
right,
the upper
so, like-
story,
Could be.
bro?
Well, like I'm saying that only because Zack isn't dead, right, in this remake or in remake timeline, right? So it's like, what if they change that to where he attempts to save her, but fucking gets offed around the same time, trying to save her.
Well, Sephiroth's sword is pretty big, so
Right.
it could stab two people at once.
I
Yeah, I'm just gonna do shush ball of the whole cast.
Yeah,
yes. He's
Okay. Well, this
stab
one theory. Oh, this one thing I just saw not too long ago though, which I doubt this will happen too, but I guess for conversation's sake, I'll say it. People think that Zack might actually become a antagonist for Rebirth or the next game afterwards, depending on how they tell the story.
Are you trying to rip my heart out like twice?
Yes. Now, I'm not sure how you guys feel about that though, but that would change things up pretty interestingly if they can handle it correctly. Keyword
I had to
up.
play. I had to play Crisis Core to
Zach
get a
turns
better.
into Zach turns into Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, wait, I'm pretty sure he doesn't like sand either, so just that.
Sephiroth takes off his mask and screams, "It was me, Austin." And Cloud goes,
It
"Son of
was
a
me.
bitch!"
It was
Look,
me,
Zach
Aaron.
Zach doesn't like when it's dry, so that's why he likes Aerith moist.
All right then.
Okay.
There's a
Alright,
reason
well,
why she's gonna lake, so
Eli's
The-
fetishes aside.
The entire planet opens up, and it's Yoko Taro's face.
Damn, we're gonna turn this into a fucking Nier/Drakengard conversation, a franchise I still need to get into.
Honestly,
I want to
if-
buy a t-shirt.
If we can keep it going, we can make it like the third impact from Evangelion.
Oh, God.
Okay.
I was
Ew,
expecting you to say
what
some
was
shit
it?
about like third birthday for Parasite Eve, which I've not heard good things about that game.
That could happen too.
Oof. All right, let's not talk about that. Let's continue the topic at hand.
Well, let me get my 2 cents on the actual plot that might happen in
Go for it.
Sure.
part 2. But the main thing when you think about change of how would they change it is everybody just looks at Aerith. Everybody knows she's gonna die, and obviously Square knows that too. And I think they might not kill her off. If I want to say it plot wise aside, just for marketing point, she's a really beloved character, and I think if you keep her alive, you're gonna be able to do much more stuff with her than to just make it okay, she's done. Like, if they actually keep Aerith alive, it could add a whole new story to
I can
the
finally wife her. Thank God.
the main reason why it's like Sephiroth killed Aerith was because Aerith is directly like related to the actual planet. So
Yeah, she's a Cetra.
when people say that like Tifa's gonna die instead, like why would Tifa die? Like she doesn't do anything for the actual plot. Sephiroth has no like motive to kill her, unless she like pulls off Mr. President and just takes the sword instead. But I don't see that happening either.
The main-
if that
the main
happens, she's
reason-
definitely coming back.
The main reason he even killed her is because she was casting Holy, which was going to stop Meteor.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think
Although I
But-
wouldn't necessarily say that Tifa doesn't serve her purpose though, just a different purpose from Aerith at the moment at least.
well, it's not directed to the planet.
Damn it. Sorry, reading the chat.
Do you think
Aside.
do you think if they if they were to keep her alive, that they would ultimately have to retcon Advent Children and then maybe ultimately
No,
Well, no. Well, for sorry, so given that it's a new timeline, though, they can just rewrite Advent Children the way it is, just add in new details, new characters, shit, whatever. So they don't necessarily have to retcon it, just redo it.
Plus,
Well-
there is an element from remake that it's kind of low key, but there is something from Advent Children in there. You have to read the interview to find out. So I don't think so.
The reason why I was asking, because is, if they were to have to like change it, I guess, do you think that like for whatever part 3 is going to be called, right, do you think that they would turn that into like a DLC thing where it's like a post game
Honestly, I don't see Advent Children being a DLC. I see that more like it doing like another movie, something like that. Wishful thinking is I would hope they turn it into another game, though. But yeah, that's wishful thinking.
I feel like they might try to like squeeze it in somehow as like this weird new take or something.
Make it like a side game.
Because I haven't seen Advent Children. I think I saw parts of it a long time, and I don't care about spoilers. It's whatever. But like, from my understanding with Advent Children, you have to have really intimate knowledge of Final Fantasy VII to get the full experience of that movie. And so when I was playing through Remake, because there's no way they can circle back with plot stuff now, people are going to be so confused. They're going to, 10 years down the road when this trilogy comes out, oh man, I'm going to finally can watch Advent Children, and it's going to be like their brains are melting out of their eyes.
Yeah, too bad for them. It's literally post the original FF7.
Right.
So that's not going to help them at all.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a good question. Like, would it, an epilogue DLC or something like that covers Advent Children in this new universe or whatever it is? You know what I mean? This new plot necessary kind of a thing.
Well, to go back to what Dom said about would they have to retcon anything, they don't need to retcon anything because they have multiple times low-key confirmed that 7 Remake is a sequel to everything that happened before. And with the recent trailer, that gets even more confirmed because when Aerith says we can't change the past, or like don't worry about the past, just we can change the future instead. When she says that line, it cuts to a part where the meteor actually hits Earth. So those are like events that happen like 500 years or 600 years after the original story. The planet got just destroyed at the end of the day, even though they saved it pretty much. So I think what this time around, what they're gonna do, is kind of go for the good ending. I don't know how they're gonna get there, but I think eventually it's gonna get to a point that after the game is done, in the future they're not all gonna die. Eventually, I think this time they're actually gonna live. Like the whole planet's gonna live afterwards, after like whatever the final boss is gonna be. I don't think it's Sephiroth. I think Sephiroth is actually trying to help them prevent all that too. So no retconning necessary for that.
Listen, Cloud buddy, you're gonna be fucked like me. I'm fucked. We should join up.
That's pretty much
Well,
You need a team up.
Well, and the thing with both Advent Children and the original, they show like the planet like hundreds of years after Cloud's time, and everything's like grown over Midgard, and like
It's just Red 13.
yeah. It's, so I'm wondering like because that's like just so open ended. Like I still don't know what the fuck that means, and I've played through original Final Fantasy VII, and I'm like, are they ever gonna address this? Like,
Okay, I think that ending
like-
is no longer considered canon, if I'm understanding, because that was because of Advent Children. Though I think that's been literally that part actually has been retconned out because they reused that same thing for the beginning of Advent Children. So
Yeah.
I don't think that even matters anymore as far as Red 13 and the
I
overgrown
think
city.
Red said, because they asked what was that, and he just said a possible future if we fail here today or something like that.
And the thing is, with whole part of Remake being called Remake in the first place was because the plot ghosts were like trying to prevent. They're called like everybody calls them plot ghosts. I'm just gonna go with that. I'm not gonna call them Whisper. That sucks.
Yeah.
But the plot ghosts were pretty much trying to keep everything happen the same exact way it did before. And this again confirms that all this already happened before. That's why everything had to be in the same thing. But do you mind if I spoil the final boss for a second? No?
yeah, we could talk spoilers.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
So at the end of Remake, you kill the plot ghost. You kill the big one that controls that. You pretty much kill Fate. So anything past this point is up for interpretation and in your control, as Aerith says. So the plot can literally go in any direction. And as for Advent Children, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe not part 2, but at the end, in part 3, they might just throw it in there. Maybe Cloud has a
Cartoon.
flashback of it or something. Yeah, because they already acknowledged that in one of the mobile games in part 2 that you have a costume for Cloud. He has the fusion sword and his Advent Children costume. So I don't know.
I think that's the first Soldier mobile game, which I don't think has any continuity as far as Final Fantasy VII is concerned.
I think it said it was continual to the original game story.
Your game story? Okay.
All they
Is it?
said it was yeah, they said it was when Shinra was actively at war with more stuff. As it's like
Oh.
before Cloud and Zack, so I think this is like way pre-7 and pre-Crisis Core.
I'm talking about the mobile game that actually is pretty much a
Oh,
one-to-one
Ever
remake.
Crisis.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ever Crisis.
that's pretty much a one-to-one remake of the original story. They had Cloud's costume in there, so I'm just saying, Adventures
Nah,
might be a part of the main story.
Yeah, but for us, that's concerned though, I wouldn't necessarily look into that though. It's probably just fan service. No, here, it's a costume.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said they might. It's a big might, but they will be silly not to do it because people love Advent Children.
Yeah.
The only reason why I'm kind of on Arian's side with that one is because, well, the 3 I posted down there are in 7 Remake as like disguised as bosses at the end of the game, and we didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And this was said in an interview, so who knows? I mean, they're already technically in there.
So, side note before we move on to number 5, because I think this was a really good discussion piece on this question here. I am actually kind of surprised they aren't wanting to maybe port over Ever Crisis to like PC and consoles as well, because like I think that would be like a great like little compromise for people that do want like a
Turn-based.
more classic styled turn-based RPG. Like I don't really have an issue with Ever Crisis. I think it's like a cool little, you know, like idea if you wanted to have like both the main remake and Rebirth right on top of this, right? So you have like multiple things to enjoy when it comes to Final Fantasy VII, and not only that, but that's why they have like Crisis Core Reunion and First Soldier, right? I think is the other one, right? So it's like bunch of different stuff that you could look forward to if you're a big Final Fantasy VII fan.
I would kill to play Ever Crisis. That was honestly a lot of fun to play.
I will emulate it on BlueStacks if they won't sell it to me.
Sure, basically.
To play.
Yeah, so I only reason why I brought that up is because I thought that was kind of interesting, and you know, we have seen that a couple of times where certain mobile games end up coming over to like PC and consoles after a while. So it'd be cool to see that maybe possibly get ported in the future. But
Can I also say really quick?
Yeah.
And it's not too plot centric, but because the music in these games has always been really, really important, and I kind of, I guess, tie it to the plot because you go through these moods and all that kind of stuff. I want to see more of that music remastered and like retouched and like have little twists to it and stuff like that.
Oh,
Just playing-
that's a guarantee, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, because playing through Remake, like, I remember when I was in, I think it was in middle school when I played 7, that I was humming that stuff to myself all the time. And same thing with like 8 and 9 and 10. And so hearing like these orchestral, like these huge bombastic versions of just the main battle theme, even, like I want them to keep doing that. Like, please keep doing that with the composer. Like, do not stop that. I'll be happy if it's just that. Because that mood, right, is like really, that music like sets that mood.
It does.
And this is plot important because I say so.
Anyway, so I think we're good to move on. Eli, can I have you read off number 5 here?
You got it. Do you believe Rebirth will be an open world game or semi-open world?
Personally, I think it's gonna be both. Like they're gonna have linear, but they're gonna have the overworld, just like how they did in this 2. Because was it Golden Saucer? Was it called? Whatever. Basically, at that location, then you get the open world map. Go travel to locations, whatever. Yeah, I think it's gonna be the same shit. Personally, it's gonna be a mix of both, semi and open.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to believe it's going to be a probably like semi-open world. Like, I think it's going to have definitely bigger areas than the first game, but I don't know. I can't see it being actually open world, to be honest.
I'm hoping for wide linear.
But the
Yeah,
thing is,
no.
given that we on the PS5 now, they have no reason to do those linear hallways again. So I am more inclined to believe that this is going to be closer
Yeah,
to
definitely,
open world.
definitely. Like I
than-
said, bigger areas,
Yeah.
more
Well-
wide open areas and stuff. But I think there'll be areas that are cut off. So technically, it won't be like really like open world. Like, but it'll be a bigger game. I think for sure.
And they're not running on Luminous, so it might actually run this time.
Luminous.
I think
It's
they'll probably
luminous.
stick-
Luminous.
They'll probably stick with what they're doing, right? Because I think over at Square Enix with the Final Fantasy stuff, they've kind of hit a certain stride where didn't you guys play Zodiac Age?
Yes, I have actually.
So like Zodiac Age has kind of like an open world, as from what I remember. It's been almost a decade since I played it, but you started to get like way too focused down in 13, and people hated that because it was literally just running through hallways and watching cinematics and pressing the X button so you can get through.
In
fights.
fairness, though, so was 10. Well, people don't give 10 shit for that either. But
Right,
yeah.
but the thing is, like 10 has this kind of like, and it's hard to describe. It has like this je ne sais quoi, like this kind of feeling to it, and like I've noticed with the way that they've kind of like with Final Fantasy 15 being kind of the progenitor of Final Fantasy 7 remake and then remake happening, they've hit this really good balance between like going to an area that has kind of almost like a hub sort of feel and then having branching paths and then coming back to kind of a hub area. So you have like this sort of semi-open world kind of feel, and with the overworld that'll be a little different depending on what they focus on and all that. But I think, especially because of kind of how they're treating the newer Final Fantasies, they're probably going to go that same route, that sort of like semi-open world where it's, got a lot of branching paths and all that kind of stuff, but you're really kind of just looking into different sort of forks in the road, so to speak, between hub areas, right?
See, I'm kind of the same mindset with that. I was kind of maybe thinking like, okay, because the original Final Fantasy VII, you could literally go through every part of the world practically. There are different ways to traverse those parts because you can't go through certain areas. You can't go through without like certain vehicles or forms of transportation. So I definitely expect like similarities in that front. But I do think that it'd be more like, instead of going from like left, right, and diagonal type of deals of like you literally go anywhere in the world, you'll have like maybe more like direct paths to go to like each town or cave or area that you're trying to go to, whether it be for like side quest or main quest. So I definitely think that they would have it semi-open in that regard, where it's open for you to travel from place to place to place, but not open to the point where you could literally go to like every point in the map with or without transportation. I think that those kind of aspects are going to change.
Get the chocobo.
Ride that chocobo.
Hold on. Sid comes in this too, right? Because that's at the point where you get to his own little hovercraft.
It's later towards that in part 2, so it's not immediate.
I mean,
Yeah,
okay,
like
'cause,
I think at like the midway point.
Yeah,
because once you get him though, that's when the open world opens up.
that's just airship time.
That's why I'm in the opinion of it's gonna be both, where you're going to have the open world, right? But you go to location, right? And then it condenses itself into a more smaller area.
Or
I
would
just wanna
it just
raise
be
my
more like a
chocobo.
fast travel system sort of thing where you could just go back to areas you've been to using his airship or something?
You may have the
Right.
option to pick between
Yeah.
fast travel or do it yourself, because I would like to actually fly the freaking airship, please.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I'm pretty sure they don't allow us fly, though, to be honest, though, considering, what the original Foundation had, where you can actually go around and go to different locations and fight shit, right? I think they're going to keep the same thing there. Just probably going to scale it down, considering, like, that's probably a little too much to add in right away. They can probably save all their extra baskets for the for part 3.
Also, you could fly the airship equivalent in 15, so I don't see why not.
Exactly.
I could maybe see them also possibly having it where that very beginning, like the very beginning of the game, it's going to be very limited. And then as you progress through the game and, get additional party members and stuff like that, it starts to open up. Because I could definitely see them doing something like that as well.
I think my thoughts on this is that I'm fine with this game being like wide linear, with just very wide open areas with like different dungeons to go exploring. Because with the latest Final Fantasy games, I do enjoy the way that they have like dungeon crawling, if you will. Like go into a cave, kill some mobs, get the reward at the end, then come back out.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I feel like wide linear is more focused than open world.
Essentially, pull the shit from Final Fantasy 16. Alright, I guess we can
16
move
will be a
on,
good
though.
education too for stuff.
Alrighty. Yeah, since I do agree that we could probably move on since there's not a whole lot to say on this one. Number 6, can I have Chaos read this one off?
Yeah. Do you think there will be a new ending for Crisis Core linking with the Final Fantasy VII remake? I'll go ahead and say, yeah, I think for sure. Yeah, we did kind of go over this already, but yeah, I think there kind of has to be, that it has to be different so that it actually is consistent with what we saw at the end of Final Fantasy VII remake, because otherwise it wouldn't really make any sense, unless they're going with this is in another timeline sort of thing, which I don't really see why they would do that. But yeah, I think it's more likely it's gonna just further try to link with Final Fantasy VII remake.
Which is gonna be interesting considering like other platforms can't play the remake, so that'd be a flick to the nuts for those guys.
I would love to see just how they connect with the new ending.
Yeah.
I will have several questions when it happens.
Basically.
I don't have an opinion because I still have not played Crisis Core.
Yeah, we kind of already talked about this though, so honestly, we should just go into number 8.
Yeah.
We can move on.
Oh, sorry, number 7.
Yeah. Brandon, you want to read off number 7 here?
Let's see. How far do you think Rebirth would go into the plot in comparison to Disc 2 of the original? I mean, honestly, pretty far. I set them to cover everything in Disc 2 and on top of the changes they're going to do. So, yeah, that's what I expect. Pretty much the whole package, plus more.
Yeah, my whole thing.
Oh, did you want to go? I'm sorry.
No.
I was just going to say that I
okay.
think the concern might be that they might split up Disc 2 into like half of that and then put the other half onto Part 3, which I could definitely see them doing that. But at the same time, too, if they're trying to like push the fact that this is a bigger game, I don't see that being as a good thing necessarily for them to cut half of Disc 2 and put it on Rebirth and then the other half in whatever Part 3 is going to be called.
Truth be told, they have no reason to even do that.
Nah. Yeah. I predict maybe the game will end at the Northern Crater.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
My thoughts were that I thought that Rebirth was going to end right after like Aerith gets capped or stabbed. That was my theory, at least.
If that's a big if, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, if you want to piss off a bunch of weebs, do that.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for that to happen just to like feel the ass mad from everybody playing that game all the time.
Oh yeah. I can't wait.
34.
No.
I'll cope with Rule 34. It's fine.
Yeah, it's
Honestly,
Oh, go on.
oh, go on.
No. It wasn't an
Okay. Honestly, what I think with the plot thing, I'm trying to see how much they would fit in, because if you look at Remake Part 1, like, Midgar was, in the original, is very short. It's practically less than 20 slides, and you're done with Midgar. But in the actual remake, it was like, I would say give it like 20 hours if you actually watch all the cutscenes and all that. Like, it's pretty long.
Truth be told, it's literally the whole game.
Yeah, it's like Midgard took that much just to go chew through, and Disc 2 is pretty much you got the most amount of stuff on Disc 2 in the original. You have the golden saucer and a whole lot of optional stuff, which, we mentioned earlier, like with Yuffie and Vincent, they're most likely not going to be optional. You have to gonna find them and talk to them, or they'll find you. Whatever works out eventually. And considering how they already have most of the assets, and they already been working on this for like what for? It's been like we're gonna hit like 3-4 years now. By the time it comes out, it's probably gonna be 4 years. And they did Midgar in like 3 years, and that was a shift in development after 2 years beforehand. So out of the 5 years, it took them 3 years to do Midgar. So asset swapping, all that, give them 4 years. The amount of stuff they're gonna put in part two is probably gonna be like worth of 2 remakes.
They said they
Lowball.
found a way to streamline stuff too, so who knows?
It's probably because of Unreal 5 and how easy it is to asset transfer from
Yeah.
4 to 5. It's just copying everything. It's just so easy to work with 5.
That and the
So-
fact that they said we're already working on part 3, like right now. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, like-
all right.
That thing is like done, and like
Yeah.
we're not having to struggle and fight against Luminous. Definitely makes it easy for them because they're a talented team. They're very talented and high, whatchamacallit, standard team. So the fact that they had 4 years and like they've been just chewing through development with no hiccups besides COVID, but that's pretty much done and deal with by now. I mean, this game is going to be packed. You're going to get at least 50 hours of non-stop, like no AFK hours, nothing. You just got 50 hours of just stuff to chew through, plus optional shit. So plot-wise, this might even go beyond the original disc 2. I feel like part 3 might have a lot of extra stuff on it that disc 3 didn't have.
I'm expecting Rebirth to be twice as long as like Remake.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to put a question in there about the length of the game. But yeah, I expect the second one's going to be much longer. Or at least it should be.
It should be, since Midgar in the original was only like 8 hours of the game.
Yeah.
It's really not much.
I am actually kind of wondering, like, because we're wondering how the length of part 2 is going to be, right? But how is the length of part 3 going to be? Because part 3, you really don't have a whole lot left over. It's mostly just going to the very end of the game. Like, yeah, you could go back and take care of any unfinished business and take care of the weapons, but I wonder if
I had something. I thought real quick. I had a thought about that. We were talking about Advent Children earlier, right?
Right.
What if they have like a really long epilogue for the third one that kind of like goes to like kind of does Advent Children but differently? They could do something like that.
Yeah, it's either that or they're just going to do the same thing they did with part 1, is just take that small segment and just blow it up. Because they proved they can do that and do it pretty well, so it won't be
Advent Children, you can make a whole game out of, so.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm
Absolutely.
like. I'm more in the line of they should make a game out of Advent Children, because that is definitely a whole ass game worthy on its own.
I think that's been a request for like ever now anyway.
Just make it its own game, yeah. I play it.
Yeah, so that's definitely why I was I'm kind of curious to see how that's gonna get handled, because yeah, we're curious about how they're gonna handle 2, but how they're gonna handle 2 is also gonna impact how they're gonna handle 3, right? In terms of what gets put onto part 3, right? Because we don't know if they're gonna split up part 2 into both part 2 and part 3, right? Or disc 2, I should say, right, into part 2 and part 3. So it's definitely going to be a very interesting wait and see how that's going to turn out. Of course, I think all of us are going to hope for that they can keep everything that they can into part 2 Rebirth and then expand on part 3, whatever they call part 3. So we'll see how that turns out. But Arian, you wanted to say something before we move on?
The thing I wanted to say is in very, very, very speculative land,
Mhm.
as you might say. But knowing how sneaky Square has been with 7 remake and beyond that, it would be the way they might try to blindside people, and this will be very effective. But again, it's speculation. Part 2 or Rebirth might just actually be the whole original Final Fantasy story, and whatever the Part 3 of the remake saga is might just be Advent Children or even beyond. Maybe by the time you deal with the original's final boss, which is supposed to be Sephiroth, but he's probably not, that's the end of Rebirth. And Part 3 is just something completely new, and no one knows what they're in for.
And then Revengeance.
What if Part 3 is called Reboot?
That would be so dumb. I would hate that.
It would be
Please don't.
cheesy, but it honestly would fit too. Because
Yeah, it
they're
would.
rewriting their story, right? They're rewriting
Mhm.
the history.
Part 3 rewrite.
See, I was
Just like
thinking.
rewritten.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
See,
All we know is that Part 3 is going to be a fucking hell of a climax.
See, I know
Yeah.
everybody's been really speculating. Okay, we know what part 1 is remake, part 2 is rebirth, and everybody's speculating what
You
are they going to
cannot
call?
redo.
Oh, what are they going to call
I get it.
part 3, right?
Nah, that's it. Redo.
Yeah,
Officially redo.
redo. But
Redo.
like everybody's speculating what are they going to call that part 3? I could definitely see them calling it something like remorse, right? In reference to like Aerith dying, if she does die in part 2 for this this remake, right? But I could also see them going a completely different direction, like you mentioned, where they might just call it rewritten, as in they're rewriting what originally happened. I think it's also interesting to point out too that if you pay attention to where Rebirth is on the title, the bottom portion of that is turning red, almost kind of like in reference to meteor coming down into the planet. So like it's going to be interesting to see if like maybe that'll become like a full red by part 3, or you know, if that's going to be a completely different color. So I definitely am curious to see how that's going to get handled.
Red Dawn. Calling it.
I can promise you, as soon as Rebirth was announced, like at least like half the fan base opened the dictionary and just went to the RE section
Oh, yeah.
and just like started taking notes from every letter they could find.
Every word that could either mean something for Final Fantasy VII or any word that could be specifically used for memes.
And before it's recycle.
Absolutely. Final Fantasy VII
Reuse.
recycled.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. There
That
you
would
go.
be very
Great
fitting, though.
games.
Refurbished.
Or as I said in chat, reverse.
God. That's coming out
Final,
too.
Final Fantasy VII reuse.
Oh, yeah.
Not a condom, bro.
Anyway, before we start diverging into other meme-worthy conversations here, Brandon, why don't I have you go ahead and read off number 8 here?
I'll read off another damn question. Fine.
Yeah, read it again.
Make
You
it
know
again.
why?
Shut the fuck.
Yeah.
Childish.
Or do you think there was a missed opportunity to remake Dirge of Cerberus, or do you think they would save this for whenever Part 3 is announced? Honestly, no, it's not a missed opportunity because, for one, it wouldn't make any damn sense for them to do it now because it takes place at the end of the timeline of Final Fantasy VII. So that's just something that they should save for Part 3, or maybe as sometime later after Part 3. Point is, though, they need to put it in the timeline because that's where it is continuity-wise.
Mm.
Well, they kind of already semi-have because of Intergrade. If you've seen the
was gonna
final
say
battle
that.
for that. That is, they've literally already shoved Dirge of Cerberus stuff into the game.
Oh, yeah,
not
they
even
show the
hiding it.
characters, yes, but not the events of Dirge of Cerberus. You just know that Weiss, it's been shown off way earlier than he's originally.
And Nero and Deep Ground themselves. So, like, they already threw in most of the plot stuff for that.
Although, it does beg the question, though: are they going to have a bigger presence in Rebirth? Because I wouldn't mind seeing Weiss again, though, but I don't want them to do too much with him and turn around and like do Dirge of Cerberus, because that will kind of take away from his standing in Dirge.
Another cheap reason, by the way, I was going to say, because they've already made the assets, so they might be like, oh, let's just remake it. We already got the characters.
Yeah, let's just shove them right in there.
Yeah, Weiss is fucking cool in the game, though. Like, holy shit.
I mean, I agree with Brandon. I think it'll probably be made after they ever do a remake, it'll probably be after the third game, since that makes the most sense in the timeline wise. That is unless as we've stated, it's a reimagining, so it's possible like maybe they change the timeline around or something, and then it takes place different place in the timeline. That's the only thing I could figure that might make it an exception, I guess.
Well, and being the cynic that I am, I think that they would really only remake Dirge of Cerberus if like Rebirth is really popular. Like if everybody is buys a PS5 to get Rebirth, they're like, okay guys, we're bringing back the classic Dirge of Cerberus. You wanted it, we're bringing it to, and like really behind the scenes, you're just like, okay, we don't sell enough of this fucking thing. We're not going to bring this turd back. We're just going to lose $1 billion. No,
literally
that's Square's MO though.
Let's be real here though. Like the game is going to sell well because the stars. Look at how well Remake 1 sold. Not to mention 16 around the corner as well. Like this game is going to sell. It's going to sell.
It's like one of the reasons why I think if they do redo Dirge, it might sell well. It's because people actually would want a game with Vincent being in it and it's playable to an enjoyable level. So off of pure fact of redemption, then people will buy it absolutely, unless it's like a Crisis Core case where they just remade the disc pretty much. Which at that point, I don't think a lot of people will be happy about that. But as far as Dirge goes, they've set up and integrated. They had a lot of setup for that. And as James said, there's a lot of characters that are just disappeared. They're still there. Even Sonon is like not dead. He kind of got consumed. So they either might do DLCs for it with part of with Rebirth, or they might just push it into the mainline story and just do a completely new DLC that's not. It's going to set up a new plot point, or part 3 maybe. But again, this is speculation for the most part.
See, I think like in regards to how they might lead into that, I could definitely see them doing like a similar deal to like Intergrade, especially if they end up like being like, okay, part 3 is gonna come out on PS6 now, so you have to buy PS6 to get that DLC or access to that version, right?
Yeah, that would be some shit.
It'd be like, oh, we've gone full circle here. We have to buy 3 different fucking games on 3 different platforms. But beside the point, I think like with Dirge, I could definitely see it being like similar to like Crisis Core Reunion, where that's being used as a companion piece to Rebirth. I could see Dirge of Cerberus being like the companion piece to Part 3.
Redirge.
Yeah, whatever.
Redig.
The redurgening.
Yeah, so I could definitely see them going in that route where they use that as that companion piece for Part 3. So that way you have 2 games to look forward to for Final Fantasy VII.
I was gonna say something, but it escaped me completely. Oh, I was gonna say that they might be approaching Dirge with a safe side of thing of doing just side DLC, so if people don't like Dirge, they just don't buy it, and like people that actually want to support the game end up buying it, like Integrate.
Mm-hmm.
So they might do that with Dirge, and just be like, we're just gonna slightly and slowly push this in there. If you guys want it, it's there. If not, just gonna whistle and walk away.
Could be.
Pretty much.
Alrighty. Did anybody else have anything to say on this before we move on to number 9?
Mighty number 9.
Alrighty, I'm gonna take that as a no. Can I have Divic read off number 9 here?
Yeah.
Of course. Do you think they will drop the ball with the new direction they're going with the plot, or do you have faith it will be good?
It's 50-50, honestly.
I think either way will be. Yeah, we kind of answered. I was gonna say either way, it's going to be entertaining as shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm down for an amazing story that has me crying in a ball on the floor while the credits are rolling, and I'm also down for a hysterical laughingstock of a story. I'm like, either way, I'm good. The worst thing the story can be is boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
true.
mean,
I pretty much have the same.
I mean, if I want to
Yeah,
play a
that's-
Final Fantasy game and be bored, I could just boot up 13.
The f-
Yeah, I kind of came up with that because I was just thinking of other Final Fantasy games that have kind of gone this similar direction in terms of this kind of a plot and never really turned out well. So I'm kind of hoping that they hopefully know what they're doing with this new direction they're going. So,
Now, unless they full lean into the stupid, like Stranger of
Yeah.
Paradise, that would be great.
oh,
Oh
God.
yeah. If you haven't, oh okay. If you guys haven't played Stranger of Paradise though, I would suggest you do it though, because it's. I don't want to spoil the game though, because it's still relatively newish though. But no, if you say too much about the game though, it will ruin the plot. So I don't want to speak too much on it.
It's one
But
of
yeah,
those play it
seriously.
for yourselves.
Bullshit.
Jack's great. Go play it.
I don't give a fuck.
Bullshit. Starts playing Limp Bizkit.
You know what? End this podcast with Limp Bizkit. I dare you.
Okay, you want me to edit it in? I can
Why
edit
not?
that
Yeah.
in.
Just walk away from your mic and
Yeah.
go, bullshit.
Yeah.
Keep re-rolling.
Alrighty. Yeah,
Get it, Johnny.
yeah, I guess for me, because I'm not, I'm not emotionally invested into Final Fantasy, so I don't have any sort of like nostalgia or like anything really that could really make me feel one way or the other. I just hope that the game is good.
You
but
will.
But I definitely understand
Yeah.
where some people might might be disappointed by like part 2, especially if they were looking for a game that was more in line with the original, or not even that, just disappointed because they felt like it was just not a good enough story compared to part 1 remake, right? So we'll definitely see how things turn out. And with that in mind, does anybody else have anything else to say before we wrap we move on to the last question and wrap things up here?
Or for the plot thing?
Yeah.
If they're gonna drop the ball with it?
Mhm.
Honestly, just look how much people anticipate it. I feel like at this point, even if they do drop the ball on it, there's gonna be a lot of people still wanting to play the game.
For sure, yeah.
If the gameplay's
What?
good, it won't matter.
Quite frankly,
No, it will. Like the story for Final Fantasy VII, at least in particular, like so synonymous that people will care about that, right? No, it's like neck and neck with the gameplay. No, as long as that's good, fine. But the story is just honestly just as is not arguably a little bit more important. But even if that, like, people will.
I'm only saying that because some people didn't like the ending of remake, and yeah, people still love it.
That's fine, man. You could like the game overall, though. It's just still just like one aspect, but still.
Mhm.
But Aaron, let me cut you off on that. I just had to say that piece.
It's okay, get your word out. The one thing I also want to say, there's a lot of, I would actually say, outright hate for the new storyline for remake from some of the original fans, and that hasn't not stopped a Square or any of the actual fans to still enjoy it and to think that the story is actually great, because the anticipation of what's going to change in this retelling or remanipulation or whatever the fuck it is, like I don't think they're gonna drop the ball on it. It's just dependent on whoever, like how open minded you want to be going into it. It's pretty much like your own expectations that are gonna screw you over. Like, do you really want a 1-to-1 remake of like no plot changing? Then go play the phone game, right? Because that's a 1-to-1 remake. And
This is one thing that Square Enix is doing a better job than Capcom is when it comes to their remakes. Is people are anticipating changes, right? But it's a good thing considering how they wrote the story for remakes. Whereas Capcom side of things, people are like wishy-washy on the changes or they won't implement.
More
feel
worried
like,
than anything else.
Yeah, so I feel like Square Enix, is definitely has done a better job of keeping the public opinion positive as far as like what to expect, what changes, all that stuff, versus Capcom side.
Capcom usually does struggle with storytelling. That's like across the board most of the time.
Yep, I agree.
They have a great plot, but they don't go about it in a great way, or they don't elaborate on a lot of stuff. But I don't want to get into this. That's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
Yep.
The one thing I wanted to say with the plot of 7 and how it might go, I just hope Square drops this bad habit of killing beloved characters, because they did this with 15, killed off Noctis at the end, and everybody hated it, so they had to retcon it out.
Yeah, they brought him back too. In fact, that was going to be DLC. He was supposed to come back, right? He is alive now, canonically speaking, though. But that was inside a novel, where because
Yeah,
the
it was
guy
supposed to be
that
DLC.
left- Yeah, so like that's unfortunate that we didn't see that into a game. But
It's kind of
yeah.
ass.
You could say that Skrill killed him twice.
And I think because I remember hearing about that, and I know this it's slightly off topic, but like with 15, I remember like the director for that game had like left, and that's why they didn't finish it.
Left mid development.
He got obliterated on that shit.
He had enough. He's been at it for 10 years. Tabata had to just let go.
Yeah, so that definitely sucks for people who wanted to see a proper conclusion to 15, but like hopefully that's definitely not going to turn out with or hopefully it won't turn out with Final Fantasy VII Remake, or even like Final Fantasy 16 coming up as well, right? Like hopefully they turn things out well enough so that people enjoy what they end up with.
Hey, who knows? Maybe in a couple of decades we might get a 15 remake.
By then we'll be probably in our 50s or 60s.
We'll get the proper versus 13 treatment.
I know the perfect title for it too, since Noctis likes fucking fishing all the time. You can just call it Final Fantasy 15 Recast.
Oh my god, I hate you so much.
We're gonna hire the Beast Boys to play them.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, so let's go ahead and read off this last question. I'll take this one, and we'll wrap things up from here. Taking the previous question into consideration, how do you think this trilogy will end?
Happy ending, sunshine and rainbows. Meteor turns into a giant cotton candy ball, and everybody survives.
Yep.
Like the end of any good JRPG, mind fucked and God is dead.
Earth pregnant.
I'm really wondering how they're going to change that. I'm hoping that they have a more conclusive ending compared to the original, just because like, yeah, I know, like Brandon, you mentioned like it's likely that ending is not canon anymore. But I think that it would be nice to see like a more definitive and like conclusive ending to Final Fantasy VII.
I agree, because so technicality, like the last thing we got is turn to Cerberus and nothing else after that. So like it'd be nice to have like a nice wrap up of this universe. And if you want to do something afterwards, they can though, but just give us something that will just make it stay. Stay with us, Happy ending for all.
How'd you get one?
I did already talk about this, and I said they might try to go for the good ending this time, right? Compared to that horrific shit that the other one ended up being in the far future. That's my take on it.
Yeah,
deserves a happy ending.
Yeah, I'm kind of sticking to what I said in the previous question, to where I just think this is gonna, potentially the third game could have like a really long epilogue, considering they'll probably cover a lot of stuff in the second one. So I feel like the third game will probably be like the ending of the main story, and then just have like this, possibly like this, just a really long epilogue to really like conclusively wrap things up. Whether that's going to be like some kind of like their take on Advent Children, or whatever, whatever this new time, or whatever this new timeline is going to be. I definitely think it's not going to end the same way as the original game, because if we're taking into account what was said near the end of Remake, it almost sounds like they consider ending of the original like worst case scenario kind of thing. Like that's not how things should go. So I think we could expect something really different in that regard. Whether that's good or not, I don't know. I would hope so, but I guess we'll have to see.
Anybody else before we wrap things up here?
Give me either crazy Yoko Taro shit or integrate it into Final Fantasy XIV somehow.
I thought you said yoga for a second though, but you know what? I want
gonna-
Yoko Taro. I want Yoko Taro to fucking write a Final Fantasy game.
It's yoga
Oh,
time.
Jesus.
Oh,
Are
It's gonna
we
be
gonna
the
have
it's
giant-
gonna be the darkest shit you ever played.
Exactly.
giant-
I saw
it'd
it.
be so off
Are-
the wall, and it would make you cry, like horrible.
It's gonna be
man-sobbing.
like Drakengard 1. We're gonna have giant babies killing people and eating them.
It's gonna end in like real world, and it's gonna bring about the apocalypse.
There's gonna be
Yeah.
there's gonna be 50 Buster Swords, and you're gonna have to level them all up to level 50 to get the true ending.
God damn it! Yeah.
Yeah, I did that.
It's gonna have
This
multiple
playground
endings.
secret.
In
speaking of
order to
more, they
get the
confirmed.
final
Didn't they
endings,
confirm?
you gotta grind all your characters to max level.
Didn't they say Nomura is doing part 3 story? Because I know he's not in 2.
I don't think he's doing anything related. Just names his partners will be on it. Just for
I
sake of
know-
selling it.
I don't think we've really addressed this, but are people concerned that is Nomura like handling the story for this?
Okay,
or is it
no,
just-
he stepped away because he's working on Kingdom Hearts. The reason why his name
Okay,
is on it
'cause-
is because to just sell the product, basically.
I'm really concerned if Nomura is like is going to be like one of the main people writing the because I mean he
can't write for shit. I will say this.
Yeah,
for sure.
he's
It's
really
funny
dropped
that
the
people
ball with, like,
solely
Kingdom
blame him
Hearts.
for that too, because yeah, it's more than just him writing the game.
Oh god.
That's true though, but like when he writes though, you know he writes. That's it kinda
Look, if you played Kingdom Hearts, you've seen the end of those games. You're always in for a wild ride.
Yeah. We'll see. That's why I have some concerns if Nomura is gonna do that's
either you like it or you're
if somebody
confused.
else
Pick
is
one.
behind it, like I'm a little bit more hopeful, I guess. But if it's Nomura, I don't know. Nomura could easily drop the ball, like if he's gonna be writing like the story. So
Listen, Chaos, my friends are my power.
oh god.
Kingdom
Yeah, no
Hearts
one's ever
always
got
pulls you in.
Yeah, it's so we're kind of side tangent. It's so cheesy, but so enjoyable.
It's typical shonen shit.
Disney Shonen for the win. But,
That's it for me. I already said God's dead and we're confused.
Alrighty. Yeah, I was making a joke in chat too that we should probably have like Kojima direct a 4-hour long ending here for Final
all right,
Fantasy
bet.
VII.
Let's do it.
Are you
That's
trying to
right.
put me into a
It's
coma?
gonna be mostly cutscenes.
Oh yeah,
It's-
absolutely.
No,
That-
it's called Advent Children.
no,
Yeah, basically.
no. Like we want like Kojima like level tiers of like mindfuck here, where like the entire time it was like nanomachines that were the driving force of this plot.
You know what? I want
So-
Sephiroth, it's George Newburn's voice, to be like, nanomachines, cloud.
It wasn't Mako destroying the Earth; it was nanomachines.
So anyway, yeah, I think we're pretty much wrapped up here. Why don't we go ahead and do outros? Aaron, where can we find you?
Can find me on Twitter at Celestial Reaper.
Alrighty, up next, James, where can we find you?
You say something? I was distracted.
I said, where can we find you, sir? I know you're looking at ass.
It's a good hobby.
Yeah,
You
it
can
is.
find me on Twitter at DevilHunterJames.
Alrighty, up next we have Divic. Where can we find you?
Twitter at Divic and on the Discord.
Yep. Eli, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at GammaEli.
Nice. Chaos, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube and Twitter at KaptainKaos, and you can also find me on Instagram at Enigmatic Arts, where I post my art stuff.
Yep. And then Brandon, where can we find you?
Yeah, Twitter, ImmortalBrandel, Linktree. You see all that shit. Yeah. Have a good day.
Yep. And then you all can find me as BioDevil_Dom on YouTube and Twitter. This should be coming up soon. Well, this is going to be coming up soon where you will be seeing either Brandon, Eli, or Chaos kind of hosting these podcasts for a little time while I'm without internet, because I am going to be going through a move soon. So they'll be taking care of that kind of stuff, and they might be bringing up some topics that they're interested to talk about for podcast related stuff. So you'll be seeing that kind of stuff soon within the next coming weeks, coming months, something along those lines. As I'm trying to speak those words and not choke on my fucking tongue here. So Yeah, whatever that was. So, that being said, we hope you all enjoyed today's podcast, and bullshit.